Lucid Group, which is creating new standards for the luxury electric experience with its Lucid Air and won the 2023 World Luxury Automotive Award, has officially launched Saudi Arabia's first automotive manufacturing facility. The facility, Lucid's second advanced manufacturing plant, AMP2, and first overseas plant, will create the company's groundbreaking electric vehicles for Saudi Arabia, as well as export to other countries. The AMP2 facility has received significant support from the Saudi Ministry of Investment (MISA), the Saudi Industrial Development Fund (SIDF), and the Economic City at King Abdullah Economic City (KAC), and it will play a critical role in accelerating Saudi Arabia's strategic goal of diversifying the economy. However, Lucid Motors, a US-based electric vehicle manufacturer, has suffered huge losses since Q1 2020, with net accumulated losses reaching $4.6 billion. Despite Lucid's financial troubles, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF, which owns a 60.46% interest in the company, is dedicated to its investment. The PIF has invested around $6.4 billion in Lucid since 2018 and has promised to purchase up to 100,000 of the company's vehicles over the following 10 years. The Saudi Public Investment Fund has become identified with large-scale investments both domestically and internationally. With its acquisition of Newcastle United of the English Premier League, its takeover of 4 domestic football clubs, and the high salaries paid to draw international stars to the Saudi Pro League, the establishment of LIV Golf, and its investments in mixed martial arts, the PIF's spending has upended significant segments of the global sports market. However, despite significant investments in the development of the futuristic city of Neom, the establishment of businesses in novel and developing sectors of the domestic economy, including tourism, defense, and alternative energy, and investments in the global technology sector through the SoftBank Vision Fund and firms like Lucid Motors and Magic Leap, sports make up a small portion of the PIF's portfolio. Saudi Arabia appeared to have struck a winner when U.S. luxury electric vehicle startup Lucid Group Incorporated went public in 2021, a clean tech venture that would diversify and significantly increase the kingdom's oil wealth. 2 years later, Lucid has provided a sobering lesson in automotive capital intensity, scale economics, and the difficulty of starting a car brand from scratch. Lucid Motors agreed to go public in 2021 by combining with blank check firm Churchill Capital IV Corp. (CCIV), valuing the combined company at $24 billion in pro forma equity. The latest company to enter the initial public offering (IPO) market is Lucid, which is led by an ex-Tesla engineer. Investors are flooding the EV market due to the rise of Tesla Incorporated and the tightening of emissions rules in Europe and other regions. With a $2.1 billion cash contribution from CCIV and a $2.5 billion PIPE, private investment in public equity, investment from investors, the deal had a transaction equity value of nearly $11.75 billion. The firm was so talked of at the time that it's difficult to emphasize. Soon after Bank of America dubbed it the next Tesla, the company went public. Its market capitalization surpassed Ford's market value at $90 billion. Its single largest investor is a Saudi Arabian sovereign wealth fund, which has made a paper profit of about $50 billion on its stake. Lucid claimed to create the most elegant electric vehicle the world has ever seen, with technical features significantly superior to the Tesla Model S, but 2.5 years later, the business has yet to live up to the hype in 2024. They only sold 6,000 automobiles, a fraction of the 49,000 deliveries they expected, and while selling their cars for over 6 figures, they still lost more than $200,000 on each one. The company incurs operating losses of approximately $8 million per day. The narrative of an EV pack failing to live up to the hype is not unique to Lucid. In this video, we'll look at why the Saudi government appears to be willing to continue pouring billions of dollars to keep these motors running. Before we proceed, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification icon in order to stay connected. You can support for free by sharing our content to a wider audience, and don't forget to drop your thoughts and opinion in the comments section below. As a business, Lucid has not been able to meet its own expectations. It seems nowhere in the near future is there a clear route to profitability. Nevertheless, since 2018, Saudi Arabia has consistently offered to help them out regardless of how much money they lose. The monarchy has invested $6.4 billion in this cash incinerator as of right moment. In 2020 and 2021, a large number of electric vehicle firms went public, Nearly all of them have either already filed for bankruptcy or are in danger of doing so. Even after Saudi Arabia invested $6.4 billion in Lucid, they intend to keep supporting them for the foreseeable future. They also established 2 new joint ventures that will need to be funded with billions of dollars. Saudi Arabia, however, will undoubtedly keep investing billions in this project due to its commitment to sustainability. If you have followed along up to this point, you may realize that this is serious business. Following a drag race, the world's fastest cars included the Bugatti Chiron Persports, which has the quickest combustion engine, and the Ducati Panigale V4 SP2, which is the fastest motorbike. The other two, which had 3-motor high-performance powertrains, were the Tesla Model S Plaid and the Lucid Air Sapphire. In the 3-car quarter-mile drag race, Lucid Air Sapphire beat the Bugatti Persports and Tesla's Model S Plaid. However, in the individual competition against the Ducati Panigale V4 SP2, Lucid Air Sapphire performed marginally better. Tesla has been attaining unparalleled performance thus far. In the field of electric vehicles, Lucid was merely observing. It is also a hard fact, of course, that Lucid is currently the focus of more eyes than before. Saudi Arabians now have the opportunity to launch their own electric vehicle and automotive industries. As its global and domestic footprint expanded, so did the PIF's assets under management. It presently ranks as the world's 7th largest sovereign wealth fund. Looking ahead, the PIF intends to manage 4 trillion rials, that is $1.1 trillion, of assets by 2025 and 7.5 trillion rials, equivalently to $2 trillion by 2030. Given the Saudi government's wealth, it seems conceivable that the PIF will meet its asset targets and become the world's largest sovereign wealth fund by the end of the decade. What matters for growth and diversification is if the PIF can make large and efficient investments to diversify the Saudi economy. The PIF has increased its domestic investments in recent years, and there has been some progress toward economic diversification. Why should Saudi invest in the vehicle industry? Almost all of the automobiles sold in Saudi Arabia are imported. Building a domestic automobile sector would be a terrific way to diversify the economy, but this is easier said than done. The first car in Saudi Arabia was built in 2010 by engineers at King Saud University. The prototype SUV, Gazelle 1, was designed in Saudi Arabia but relied on imported parts and was assembled by a contract manufacturer. However, the car was never produced due to a lack of investors. In 2017, the government approached Toyota, requesting that they create a manufacturing factory in the kingdom. After a 2-year feasibility assessment, Toyota decided that production in Saudi Arabia would be challenging due to high labor costs, a lack of local suppliers, and a tiny local market. They projected that production costs in Saudi Arabia would be at least twice as high as in other nations, even with hefty subsidies. In 2019, they denied the Saudi government's request. It should be mentioned that hundreds of individual components are required to manufacture a car in countries with developed automotive industries. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of suppliers capable of producing all required components. In Saudi Arabia, such vendors do not exist. If you want to create a car factory, you must either manufacture all of the components or import them from elsewhere, both of which are incredibly expensive. It's significantly more efficient to simply import finished autos. It was difficult to persuade an existing automaker to open shops in Saudi Arabia, so they took a new approach, purchasing a controlling interest in the EV startup Lucid. They told Lucid to build a facility in Saudi Arabia, and unlike Toyota, Lucid couldn't refuse. So they did build a facility and began small-scale production in late 2023. Lucid's Saudi factory is a semi-knockdown assembly plant, while the majority of the parts are manufactured at Lucid's main factory in Arizona. The cars are transported to Saudi Arabia for final assembly once they are partially constructed. Lucid's assembly plant is situated in the King Abdullah Economic Metropolis, which aims to become the nation's center for car manufacturing. The roadmap for Saudi Arabia's car manufacturing doesn't end with Lucid. Additionally, they have invested billions of dollars to form 2 new joint ventures with Hyundai, the massive South Korean automaker, and Foxconn, the contract manufacturer. The same city will be home to all 3 factories. Hopefully, this will spur the development of regional suppliers of parts that can cater to all 3 of these businesses. This concept might work, but it will probably cost a fortune to do so. The Sovereign Wealth Fund's recent investment highlights Lucid's competitive advantage among struggling EV startups. The Saudi government, which owns 60% of Lucid, has invested billions in its development as part of a goal to diversify the kingdom's economy beyond oil. Lucid is key to the kingdom's ambitious Vision 2030 plan, which seeks to reduce the country's reliance on oil revenue while diversifying its economy. Lucid will help the Saudi Green Initiative's goal of having 30% of new automobile sales in Saudi Arabia be electric by 2030 by developing electric vehicles. The AMP2 factory has commenced semi-knockdown SKD assembly and will have an annual capacity of 5,000 vehicles. The initial process involves reassembling Lucid Air vehicle kits that have been pre-manufactured at the company's AMP1 manufacturing facility in Casa Grande, Arizona. Lucid intends to shift AMP2 to complete build unit (CBU) production after the middle of the decade, with an additional yearly capacity of 150,000 vehicles. AMP2 is poised to become a catalyst for innovation and employment generation, promoting domestic Saudi talent and offering professional skill development training. Lucid anticipates hiring hundreds of Saudi citizens in the first 3 years through a partnership with Human Resources Development Fund (HRDF), and eventually expanding the workforce into the thousands. Lucid and HRDF's investment is in keeping with Vision 2030. It is intended to draw, develop, and hold onto talent in order to create a strong, knowledgeable, and regional workforce. The plant's advantageous location close to Jeddah will also serve as a stimulus for the development of the recently formed domestic supply chain, increasing demand for regional vendors and promoting long-term growth. Because of Jeddah's location on the Red Sea coast, Lucid can export its finished luxury electric vehicles to other areas in the future. Jeddah already has strong supply chain access by land and sea. One of the many EV companies severely impacted by the slowdown in demand growth and the pricing war that Tesla started is Lucid. Under the leadership of a former Tesla executive, the company anticipates producing 9,000 units in 2024 as opposed to 8,428 last year. Lucid's Air premium cars compete with Tesla's Model S and luxury electric vehicles from Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, and Porsche, among others. Lucid stated in its fourth quarter financial presentation last month that it had enough liquidity, at least until 2025, and projected $1.5 billion in capital spending in 2024 as it prepares to debut its Gravity SUV line later this year. The corporation had $4.8 billion in available finances by the end of 2023, with $4.3 billion in cash. It's been a great deal sticking around to this point. That wraps it up for this video. What do you think about Lucid and Saudi Arabia joint ventures? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.